got to start getting used to it, or
I'll cut this part out whenever
no,
we're
you
ready.
can't. I don't care.
I think it is. I think that the 40s is when you start to realize that your heroes aren't your heroes, or your heroes are dying. Things you grew up with aren't there anymore, and they start to like fade away, and then like friends start dying of like natural causes versus like terrible things in your 20s. I don't know.
I recently had a friend pass just because he didn't want to go to the doctor, and his fiance told him he should, and like a lightning bolt, just died in the bathroom. 39 years old, just hit the ground.
Shit.
Yep.
Like, I mean, that.
And he knew
me.
he had like a heart problem,
Oh,
and I don't know. He was ignoring it. He thought he had more time to get it fixed, because that's what his family always said. Like, this is something you're gonna have to worry about. You know, when you're in your 60s, you got to get this taken care of. But he was 39, and his heart, his aorta, like split.
Jesus.
I think it's just like a common thing that happens. So, yeah. But I mean, no, I think like our age, I know like with my wife, like she lost her mom and dad like one after the other. Like it was brutal. But they like treated their bodies like, you know, like an amusement park ride that nobody like really took care of.
Yeah.
You know, smoking and drinking all the time and everything, having a great time. And man, like, I don't think she didn't even make it to her 60s, and he only made it like midway through 60s. I don't know. I know that like I wasn't very healthy, and now I'm wondering like, oh man, like I don't have a chance. I'm gonna leave my wife a widow.
Starting this episode good with a lot of positivity.
I know. Got a good insurance bet, like big, like she's gonna get a good chunk of change to throw some dirt on the ground, and I don't know. This is a lot different from the previous podcast we had.
I got
just being old.
I got a life insurance policy for the first time. I tried to get it in like October, and it kept being pushed back because like apparently there's a lot of shit they have to do. Like you can't just give them money and they accept you. I had to have 2 doctors come out to the house.
They wanted to check the old.
They wanted to check everything. They wanted to they wanted to fucking. One was like physical with blood and urine and everything else, and then one was
It's weird. Like they're
mental.
gambling on you. They're gambling on you. They
basically.
literally they got like a bookie that comes out and wants to see what the spread's gonna be on your death, and they hope to God that they win.
I think either I told this to you or I told this to Andy, but like if we were to see a TV commercial with like an old school 1970s Guido mobster, like just looking at the camera in a white space, like nothing around him, nothing to tell you anything that what he's doing there, okay? And he just says, it would be really sad if you got in an accident. And if it just said like Prudential, I would fucking believe it. Like it wouldn't feel out of place. It would just feel like, all right, that sounds about right. Insurance is like the biggest fucking scam on the planet.
Yeah.
Besides democracy. But we're not getting into that this week.
You want a democracy episode? I'm glad. You want a democracy episode?
Because I can't argue it.
For or against?
I can't argue the topic. I know enough to know how I feel, but not enough to be educated on it.
Well, that's why you like if you wanted to talk about that, and you.
It's not.
I don't know, what would you?
That's okay though. Would I want to? I mean,
I could probably have at length some discussion about democracy.
No, you and I actually did like before the show even started. You and I were down here for like an hour talking about political regimes and different landscapes and like what is really happening in America right now versus, you know, what it was 100 years ago and yada, yada. And that's kind of what got me the fire under my ass was like, yeah, let's do a fucking podcast where we just talk about intelligent shit instead of, you know, dick and fart jokes. So, Yay! I'm opening up a file right now. This is good, dude. Podcasting, by the way.
So instead of talking about democracy, like we came out talking about death and democracy. Holy shit!
So I mean, fuck it. Let's go down this path. I think that's more important than like a topic. Let's talk about death.
Well, okay. I mean, that is a topic, but
yeah. I mean, well, so I actually had an idea of like kind of like a game I wanted to play tonight, but I mean, let's talk about death, and like once we get to a point where we're like, this is enough because this is a fucking bummer. Then we'll move on to something hopefully more fun if it doesn't randomize wrong.
A fucking death episode. All right. Well, how do you want to come out of the gate with a death episode?
I think we already did.
We did, but like, I guess like, what do you segue into? Do you talk about maybe you could talk about like how have you viewed death differently from being a young man to now? Like when you were a little young Jay, what was the first funeral you went to?
I don't know.
You don't even know?
First, I don't know. I've been to a few.
You don't remember your first one? Mm-mm. First time you had to look in the casket?
No, I was young.
I remember my first. It was my Uncle Carl's, 1986. Had to look at I remember looking in there and just being like terrified because I was like, that guy doesn't look like a guy.
Right.
Like, I didn't think he looked real. I didn't know him very well. I was just told he was like an uncle of mine.
Yeah,
and like when you're young and you just kind of hear uncle, I'm like, well, that reminds me, like I have an Uncle Frank and I have an Uncle Perry.
Mm-hmm.
And those are my uncles. And then I see this other guy who like looks so different and weird. And then it made me scared and sad because I love my uncles and I thought they were awesome. And I didn't want them to look like that. But then I think like the big thing that was weird with me was when like, you see this guy in a box and then you see them close the lid and then you watch them put the box in the ground. And then you get like really confused of like, why are they throwing dirt on top? Like, how's he going to get out of there? And like, then now you're kind of scared, like, well, like, what is going on? And then like having to grasp, like, I don't know, I guess like that was like a moment where I had to grasp like infinite or forever. Like he's just always going to be in there. And I remember that was a big one for me when I was little, like that first time, And then after that, like they got, I don't know, I wouldn't say like easier, but it was always weird. Like if you didn't know them, I remember there was one where I remember the first time having to be a pallbearer. Were you ever a pallbearer? You've never been a pallbearer?
I have not.
Like there was, oh my God, like why would they do this? They wanted all the boys to carry the coffin. I'm like, dude, I was like 10 years old.
That's kind of scarring.
No, I mean, it was cool because I felt like it was cool because I was being asked to do like, I was like, this is a really important job. I didn't want to screw it up.
Yeah, right.
But like, coffin was like really heavy. And like, I was so scared about dropping him. Which I could segue into like my grandpa, who I love so much, my grandpa Dell. Like, I remember we had to carry him and it was at a place out like near Rockford. Not Rockford, but it was like one of the towns before that is where I went. It was in like an old Frank Lloyd Wright building, which was like I thought was really cool. But I remember we had to carry him. It was my brothers and I and it's probably some of the cousins it's some of my cousins. But I remember we had to carry him up a set of stairs, which is weird. Like coffins are just really awkward to carry.
Yeah.
And like I remember like feeling him shift in the box. Like he obviously he slumped to the side. And I was so sad, but like people were like joking about it. And I remember being like immediately upset and then like just didn't feel bad about laughing about it. And it kind of weirds me out a little bit thinking like
right.
Like if you take like a sock and like put another sock in it and kind of spin it up and the sock is just kind of wedged to one side.
Right.
Yeah, that's my grandpa's just kind of he's just wedged to like one side of the coffin in there. Like, oh man. Sorry, Grandpa. But what is your first memory of death?
Oh, I think our dog. I remember my dog dying. And I knew the cat we had before that died before the dog. Ashes died when I was very young. But I don't remember. Tub died. Tub was a mutt. Very good dog. Like she was like every childhood picture I have, like the dog was like around me. Tub was like, I don't know, like the family dog. You know, like if you had a fucking postcard and you had to paint the family dog on it.
What kind of dog was it?
Just a black mutt.
Okay.
A black and gray mutt. But it was like the most heartwarming butter commercial you could possibly fucking think of. Just this like pure goodness in a dog, you know? And she was feeling sick for a while and then she ran away. And Tub never ran away. This is the kind of dog you just leave out on the front step and would hang out.
Okay.
Like she would just know, this is my home. I don't go anywhere else. This is where I live.
How old were you when this was going on?
5, 4. I don't remember exactly.
Okay.
And I was in Edison. And my dad was going fucking crazy. We were in the car looking everywhere for her. I remember like leaning outside the window, yelling her name. Couldn't find her. And then like hours went by. We went home and my dad got a phone call that they found her like a mile and a half away in the middle of an intersection.
Oh no.
And my dad says that she knew she was going to die, that she didn't want to be home when she did it. You know, and that's something like I kind of understand why animals do that, but it's the fucking worst, man. Like, it's just, I don't know. That's fucking painful.
Did she get hit?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I would assume so. But this dog is not a runaway dog. This dog was, you know, home. So I remember my dad blaming himself in the garage for why she ran away. And he was just fucking sobbing. And I think like losing her was hard, but like I think maybe that was my introduction to the finiteness of life.
And you got to see your dad
when
lose
I saw
it
my
too.
dad lose it. That's when I was like, oh, this isn't just a thing. It's something grandiose. It's something far bigger than I can.
It's like watching Superman cry.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. That was fucking rough. I do have a good story about death. It's not good, but so my grandma was dying. She was in hospice, and my dad, his brother and sisters all came in, and we were sitting around. We were in her room. She was unresponsive. You know, we had all said our goodbyes to her individually. I remember she was pissed at me when she could still talk because I didn't have a kid yet.
How old was she?
Fuck.
How old were you? Here, let's ask that.
Early 20s. Andy and I had started dating, and we were dating for like 3 years before she died. So 2009, 2008.
Okay.
I'm not good on times, man. I'm like when you said it was 1986 when you went to your funeral, I was like, shit. Like it's very hard for me to wrap my head around time. Time is more like it's not a linear thing in my memory. It's more like I have to bounce around from one thing to the next to get to it. But I remember being in her room, and I told her, I was like, hey, I'm going to ask my girlfriend to marry me. And I swear to God, she smiled, man. And I was like, yeah, you know, maybe I'm doing something right, you know. So we're all sitting in her room, and it's like 6:00 p.m. and we'd been sitting in there for days.
Which grandma was this?
This was my dad's mom.
Okay.
And we were sitting around talking, being family, shit like that. And something clicked, and we all looked over, and she had passed. So it was like this real kind of like solemn moment for a second until my uncle said, oh, she was just waiting for dad to get off work. Fuck, that hit so goddamn home. You know, it was Grandpa got off work, 6 o'clock, came to get her. It's like, let's go. Get in the car.
Yeah, it's weird when I was I was with my wife when she lost her ma. You know, she ended up having like, oh man, her story was really sad because she ended up getting lung cancer, and you know, and she was fighting it, and she was getting all the treatments.
Yeah.
And then like one day, something happened. She couldn't talk anymore. She lost her voice, and she was always like very talkative. She always loved to laugh. And something was going on, and they found out there was some sort of, she had to like go in for brain surgery. Something was going on, and she needed brain surgery, and it was supposed to be just a typical surgery that they do a bunch of times, but it just didn't work out. And she just, due to everything that she was going through, like her body just couldn't handle it. And I remember like, I don't know, like everybody was like what you were saying, like everybody was really sad, but like, I don't know, like people were telling stories. Everybody was telling goodbye in their own way.
Yeah.
I remember telling her that I was going to take care of Heather, and I was going to do my best job that I can. Yeah. And everybody, then it just kind of, I wasn't there when she went. I remember I was taking the dad home. Like I was taking him back to Batavia, and they were in, what was the name of that place? They were at, it was one of the places off of, probably Geneva. I think they were in Geneva, or Geneva or St. Charles. But yeah, same thing. Everybody was just kind of talking, having a good time, laughing.
That's what I would want, man.
We were just talking and laughing, and then you'd cry, and then more talking and laughing. Yeah. And I remember like she was just sitting there right in the room. My wife like was with her like all the way up to the very second, like literally felt her go cold. So, you know, and I don't know, like I told my wife, like, it's the last gift. This is my take on it. It's the last gift they give you if you get to be there. Because, you know, it's unknown. You don't know. Like you can only, I think like all the religions and all the science and everything, there's nothing that we can do to really know what the next thing is. Like, is it just all going to be black? Are you going to see stuff like other people do? Is it like that shot of adrenaline or like whatever DMT floods your brain and you see everything? You don't know. And then, but when you're with them, you get to watch them go. And it's, I don't know, like if it's, you can have some sort of solace, or some sort of peace, just knowing like, all right, that's what it's going to be. So I don't know. It's a gift, and you should take it like that, I think. Even if it's you losing a pet or something like that, you know, it's a gift, and you should take it as such.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Now, granted, I haven't lost my parents. I haven't lost like people direly close to me, but the losses in my life, the hardest ones have been pets.
Mm-hmm. I lost my dog. Oh my God, that was awful. That was September 3rd at approximately 8:30 in the morning, 2014. Yeah. I felt really bad because he was too, he couldn't control his bladder. So he would pee in my bed if I let him in the room. So I had to he had to sleep outside the door because he always wanted to sleep in bed next to me.
Yeah.
And he couldn't do it anymore. But I woke up at around 8:10 to him yowling in awful pain. And I didn't know what to do. And all I could do was kind of hold him. And then he just kind of yelped until like the yelps started getting just weaker and weaker, and I literally just felt him go cold in my arms. Yeah, that was awful. That was so awful. Like, because he was in so much pain, like immediately. I don't know if he was having a heart attack or a stroke, but I mean, like, I know I'm happy that I got to be there because like I read some people, they say that like they came home and the pet died and nobody got to be there.
Yeah.
And I can't. Oh my God. I like if he had to go by himself. Oh God. Oh man.
I
that would
honestly
suck.
think about that every single day. Every time I leave my house, I think that.
That one of them, they're going to go without you being there.
Well, not just me, but anyone. That they're going to be so scared. And
oh my God, dude. Did you read that? There was a thing that a vet wrote that said like there's some people who take their pets and like when they're putting their pets down, like the pets are just frantically just trying to find their owners because they're so scared. Oh my God. Like, dude, if you have a pet, be there for their last moments because when they go, all they want you to do is be there.
yeah.
Oh my God. I just don't understand the people that do that. They just say like, oh, I can't do this. I can't do this.
Fuck you.
You got to do it.
Fuck you, man.
Yeah.
We had to put down my cat 2 years ago. And that was like, it sounds silly, but that was the hardest one. That was the hardest death ever for me. We had a cat for, I think, 3 years. He was 12 or 13. He was 13 when we got him. He was given up, surrendered to a humane society, and he lived at that humane society for 2 years. And that, like, when I heard about it, it just fucking shook me. And we went to go see him, and he's just skin and bones. Like, he had given up. Like, nothing was left in his eyes. He saw us and just dropped his head, went back to the corner of the fucking cage, and wanted nothing to do with us. Mm-hmm. And we said, well, fuck that. We're taking him home. You know, like, and the people at the place were like, he doesn't have long to live, you know, months at the most. And we're like, good. I mean, not good, but, you know, we're going to take him home. We're going to fucking spoil him. We're going to cuddle him until he doesn't want it anymore. And then he can die in a warm, happy, loving place. Mm-hmm. That was our 100% goal. The motherfucker lived 3 years.
Good.
And when he got home, man, he was like, he lit up. He's like, well, this isn't the Humane Society. This is cool. And then he met the other cats and he fucking hated them. Straight up fucking hated everybody.
This is Bugsy?
Bugsy.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to not to say his name. But and then for the next year, it was like a constant battle between him and I. He would purposely go to the litter box, hang his ass out, and piss outside. And he would piss on the wood or the wall. And eventually, the greatest fucking thing I've ever done with a litter box is fuck litter boxes. They're useless. You get one of those giant moving tubs, cut a hole in the side, sand down the edges so the edge won't accidentally cut your cat as they're walking through. Mm-hmm. They can't shove litter out. They can't fucking, you know, piss outside the box. And that cleared it up right there. You know, but him and I would fight all the time, and he'd want to do something, and I'd smack him a little bit on the butt, and he'd fucking hate me for it, and he'd hiss and bite me, and then something clicked. After a year, something just fucking clicked, and all he wanted to do was cuddle. He was nice to every other cat besides Knox, hated fucking Knox, hated her fucking guts, but all he did was cuddle. I've never had any animal that cuddles as much as he did. If I sat down, he was on you, and you could like wiggle, and the fucker wouldn't move. At night, he would spoon you, put his head under your chin, and get tight next to you, and wouldn't move. He had an enlarged thyroid, and his heart beat about 3 times as fast as a normal cat's. He was on constant medication, and then he got cancer inside of his nose, and it went up into his head. And this was right at the beginning of COVID when we had no money. And we went to a fucking vet and went to a lot of vets. He would just sneeze blood all the time. He'd just walk into a room, sneeze blood, and you just see like this red fucking pollock go on the wall. And I was never mad at him for that. Like that's fucking bullshit. You know, like I was just so scared for him. And we did everything. We had him on different medications, and eventually, the fucking toilet flushing above right now. I really hope that sound comes through, by the way. And we went to a specialist, and they said it would cost $8,000 to try to look to see what it was up his nose. And we were like, $8,000 to look? It's like, yeah, we have no, we can't say it'll fix it. We can't say anything else. And since he's old, there's a high chance he could die during anesthesia. And we're like, can't afford it. And all this other shit. That's fucking horrible. So we decided to not do it and gave him lots of medicine. And I remember the day, man. I remember the day so fucking vividly. He, the night before, he came upstairs. He wouldn't come to bed. He sat outside the bedroom door and just sat there. And something in me, I was just like, fuck it. I got out of bed and I slept with him on the floor. And the next morning, he was real quiet. And I was supposed to be on a podcast, like a funny podcast. So I had to like ham it up and shit. And I did the podcast and I came out and Andy was just fucking crying. And she's like, something's wrong. So we took him to the vet and the vet was just like,
it's time.
It's time. And I wanted to hurt him so bad for saying that. But I knew, retrospect, day later, I was like, okay, he did the right thing. But it was like a week before I could fucking talk. This fucking cat,
He's your buddy.
So, do I believe in, the afterlife, shit like that? No. Yes and no.
Okay.
But I wanted to. I always have. So I would always, like for the next year, I slept with like extra room next to me in bed. And it was like 2 days after he died, Knox was flying around the house like scared out of her fucking mind. And I was like, oh, he came back to fuck with her. And about a year later, Andy read this thing online about like a pet psychic. Like I believe most of that shit is bullshit. Mm-hmm. I honestly do.
They're preying on people?
They're preying on people. Dude charges $15 to $20 to do a reading per pet.
Sounds like a deal.
Well, and then we were like, fuck, that's a dinner. Like, fuck it. Let's do it.
Entertain me for 20 minutes.
Entertain me. So it took like 9 months to get a response because he has a backlog.
What?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And when it came, dude, holy shit, it tore open all the fucking wounds. And just, here's the thing. Right before he died, Rex and him got like really close. They got like really friendly with each other. Mm-hmm. And Bugsy's favorite toy was this little mouse with a sweater on it. Like he would go for that toy before he went for anything else. And after he died, we got him cremated. We put into a little cremation box, and then we put the toy on top of the box. And every fucking night for John, no shit, maybe 4 or 5 months, Rex would bring the toy up to bed. Fucker never played with it once before that. Every single night he would bring it up to bed. And then one night he played with it and we can't find it. We have looked, Andy and I kind of went on like a rampage. We tore everything apart in the house to try and find this little fucking stuffed mouse. And we can't find it. And that was one of the questions that we put in the thing is, where's Bugsy Mouse? Like where did it go? And you could ask like a bunch of questions. We asked like 5 questions or whatever. And all of them were really good. But the one, he couldn't find, he didn't know what Bugsy Mouse was because we never called it Bugsy Mouse until after he was dead. But one of the questions in there was like, where are you now? And he says, after I passed, I went to go visit the old people. I went to go visit old mom and dad. And the whole time we had him, the whole time, I kept thinking that his owners were pieces of shit to him and then got rid of him. And the stories we were told at the Humane Society was the people who gave him up kept him in a bathroom for a year because he wouldn't go to the bath. He wouldn't, use the toilet. He wouldn't eat right. He wouldn't, be a good cat. So they had to get rid of him. And it didn't fucking dawn on me that he was probably like that person's parents' cat. And they probably died. And then the kid took the cat, didn't know how to take care of him, abused him, and then gave him up. So it never fucking dawned on us that he could have had more than one home before us. So then it was like, oh my God, you're going to go see your fucking people. Like, how fucking cool is that?
Yeah.
Like the whole I can't, that poem, The Rainbow Bridge?
I do.
I can't fucking read that, man. That hurts.
Yeah.
Jesus.
That's why I like the, when Eddie went, everybody said that Eddie looked like a luck dragon.
Yeah.
Which is exactly why I say now, and I say it all the time now, and people look weird, but I just say your dog just turned into a luck dragon. I always wonder, like, I wonder where cats go.
Someplace they can sleep and eat more than they're allowed to. And be on every fucking counter.
Oh, a world of counters.
Yeah. I'm sorry for bringing it so down. It's still raw, and it's been like 2.5 years. I do these things sometimes. I have a note app in my phone.
There's a lot of notes.
It's a lot. It keeps going too. I'll just talk into it, kind of like a diary. I've never reread them ever. I have stuff dating back to 2015. But one of them was the day he died. I remember I wrote a long one. I'm not going to read it because it's going to fucking tear me up. December 13th, 2020. Bugsy died today. I'm not going to read that fucking thing. But...
Ooh, that's long.
Yeah.
You want to keep talking about this, buddy?
I don't know. Like I said a few weeks ago, I'm feeling more sensitive lately. I think the older I get, the more I realize mortality, and the more it's like, it's fucking fragile.
Yeah.
Everything. I mean, the human body's fragile. But life in general, stupidest shit can make you dead. The stupidest shit. And that terrifies me to die before multiple things. Like, I'm never going to have kids. So I think part of me not having kids is the fear of not having something live on after me.
Dude, I get that. I want kids so bad. And I think about that. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't really have anything. Like, I have all this stuff.
But you're building. You're literally creating structures. I create things that go online and never get seen again.
You're making wedding moments. Those things definitely live.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm not looking for an answer.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to. I don't know. Do you think that if the economy was better, you would have kids?
No.
No.
No, it's a selfish thing. I don't want kids. For a long time, I thought I did. And then Andy and I had a lot of good sit-down conversations where it was like, let's honestly talk about this. Not just like, would it be nice, or, we don't need it. It's like, let's honestly talk about all the different fucking aspects. And I'm sorry. I know I sound selfish and like a dick, but it comes down to me being selfish. I don't think I could.
I don't think that's. I mean, you're being honest. I think it would be a disservice to the kid. Even though, or everybody always says that, like, once you see the kid, everything changes.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's true. I don't know.
I almost became a dad at a very young age. So,
yeah,
that's the whole fucking thing. Yeah.
Do you think that had something to do with it?
I think so. Maybe not completely. Maybe not even a majority factor. I think that's just. I think about that all the time, man. Like I always like look at my age and I count back 17. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, like kid could have a fucking family of his own now.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. It feels weird.
I don't feel old enough. Like, I don't.
Yes.
I was just talking to people at work. They, I think everybody is amazed that I'm older than what I am. I'm 40. What year is this?
I know it is. I got
40.
to double check all the fucking time.
42. I'm gonna be 43.
You're gonna be 43 in a month.
But like, yeah, everybody thinks that I'm a lot younger than what I am.
I get that too.
I don't know. I think people just become sticks in the fucking mud. You know what I mean? Like, I've had people, just people that are just fucking curmudgeons.
Yeah.
And they think that, there's this thing that you're supposed to do to be an adult. That's fucking bullshit. You know what? Here's some unsolicited advice. Anybody who says they have the problem or they have the answers, fucking run. Fucking run. They don't have the answers. It is bullshit. Adults, that whole thing about being an adult, we're all children grown tall. And you're just trying to figure it out, and everybody's making it up as they go.
True.
Totally. I think even in my profession, like the guys that have been doing this for 20 years, like, yeah, they know a bunch, but like still don't know. They'll still get zingers every once in a while that they have no idea. And why is it? And riddle me this.
I'm riddling.
Why is it that like the measuring stick for this conversation is over because I've done it longer is always 20 years? Why does everybody say I've been doing this for 20 years? Have you noticed that?
No, but
I don't know.
I know what you're talking about.
It's in the building industry. Everybody's been doing it for 20 years. There's people I've met, they've been doing it for 20 years for like 5 or 6 years. I mean, it's bullshit.
Now you brought up a lot there, and I don't want to like poo-poo anything because everything you brought up is actually fucking right on the spot level of what I believe in too. Like we're all just children grown tall, which I love that saying, by the way. We're all trying to figure it out, and you're right. Anyone who says they have all the answers, fucking run. Like, unless you're a kid and it's your parent telling you that, I mean, they don't have all the answers, but what they do have is a driving force desire to make sure you don't die. So yes, listen to them for the fact that they want you to stay alive and healthy
or successful.
Or it's successful if you're a good parent. Yeah.
Oh man, the whole phrase like youth is wasted on the young. Like there's I remember so many things that if I would have just listened, that my life would be so much better. And it's very frustrating when I'll talk to somebody who's young and I see their eyes glaze over.
I know.
And I'll just flat out say, I told this to Bella. I just said, I know I could tell you all these things and it would help you out a lot, but you're just not going to listen.
Yep.
And and she took offense to it, but I reiterated like nobody did. I didn't.
No.
Nobody expects you to. But if you would only, but there are cases when if somebody didn't listen, then it would be It would be very different. I know, like when I joined the military, everybody said, "Shut up, keep your mouth, shut up, keep your head down, don't volunteer for anything." And I volunteered for everything. I got to do so many crazy. I believe that my life became much more interesting, and I don't know, like there was good and bad things to it, but like just shutting up and keeping your head down and not volunteering for anything. What an awful piece of advice that is. But I think for like a bunch of Vietnam vets, they thought that that's the way it should be.
Well, okay. I'm going to side with you on what you said is if you shut up and keep your head down, you're not going to experience things. Like there's two ways of thinking about it, right? There's the shut up, keep your head down, but so I know when to step around the dog shit, and I can keep walking on my path. But if you keep your head down, you're not going to see the fucking flower patches and the goddamn beautiful buildings around you, and the goddamn sunset and the stars above you. You're not going to see the world. Mm-hmm. You're going to see just what you're not scared enough to not see. You're just going to see this path that you're told to take rather than to fucking branch out and try other things. I agree with that. Mm-hmm. I do think that some people get a raw fucking deal. And I think the Vietnam vets got a raw fucking deal. And the people who stood up and said, yes, I'm going to do this for my country, and got shit on overseas and at home. I mean, how it would be impossible to not have that mindset moving forward.
Have I told you about the book that I read called Spitting Image? Okay. This is gonna be a weird one. This is gonna be a weird one.
Bring it.
All right. There's a book.
By the way, saying it's gonna be a weird one.
Yeah.
When we started this conversation, rough.
Well, all right. So we are of the generation where a lot of our parents were Vietnam veterans, right?
Right.
And the story as it goes, or not the story, but like how it happened was that these Vietnam vets, they often were drafted and went off to war, and they left with long hair. They came back with short hair.
Right.
And as soon as they got off the plane, they were immediately spit on by some hippie girl and called a baby killer. And that happened to an army, a whole swath of an entire generation that were embarrassed because of their time in the service and the awful, awful things that the hippies did. That's what happened.
Well, that the hippies did, or that they see, like everything I'm hearing about that. Now, this is coming from stories of my father. Mm-hmm. Okay. And we'll get to your knowing nod there in a second. But I assumed that sentence would have said being treated the way they were when they came back and having to deal with the shit that they had to see and go through and do when they were there.
So do you believe what do you believe, or the stories that you heard, why were they treated poorly when they came back?
To my knowledge, the Vietnam War was the first war that was televised live, or at least at the same time, without the bolstering of "Rah, rah, America's awesome."
Okay.
We also had a lot of civil rights movements during that time period, meaning that people needed to voice their opinions about many different things, from race, sexuality, to fucking war. War was a giant one that people fought against. So seeing people, I lost my train of thought.
But, I was saying what happened to them when they came back.
So this is what my father told me. Granted, I wasn't there, and I only know from what he's told me. And I have learned to take things he says with a giant heaping spoonful of salt. But when it comes to military stuff, I really don't. Because I wasn't a part of it, because I don't have the history myself, I feel more inclined to believe him on that aspect.
Okay.
But when he tells me to install a toilet and put 2 wax rings on it, I say no. I will Google it and say 2 wax rings is wrong. Just one.
Just one.
Just one.
So now this is, I'm going to say I don't have an opinion on this.
This is rare.
I am going to parrot what
The book?
the
The
book.
spinning
And the
image?
reason why and I will let you know why at the end, and you'll understand why.
Okay.
So as you said, the story goes, they were drafted, they came back, all these awful things happened to them.
Yes.
There is an author who was also a Vietnam veteran, and he ended up being a professor at a university in California, who sometime around in the 90s, right when the first Gulf War veterans were coming back,
Okay.
and a lot of people were talking about how awful a time was for the Vietnam vets. He wanted to know more about it. He was a professional of journalism, and he started to look into it. And went looking into microfiche documents of past newspapers and things like that. And after looking month after month, year after year, he couldn't find any instance of anybody ever being spit on. And he thought that was very weird. He thought that was very, very weird. And he kind of, when he started looking into it, he started to kind of like rationalize things of, well, okay, they were treated poorly, right? Who were their parents? Their parents were
The Greatest Generation.
the Greatest Generation. What happened when the World War II veterans came
They were
home?
fucking heroes.
They got ticker tape parades.
Right.
They got photos of them celebrating when they came home.
Right.
They had the victory in Europe and the victory in Pacific days. They were treated like conquering heroes. And in this case, not conquering heroes, but like they were treated like the people who saved the planet when they came home.
Right. Hometown heroes everywhere.
Hometown heroes. Do you think that that's a really hard act to follow?
Of course it is.
Do you think that when you come home, if you didn't get a ticker tape parade, are you getting shafted?
Yeah, I would think there would be a definite resentment.
For not getting a ticker tape parade.
Or something that resembles it. Yes.
Like, how often can you have a ticker tape parade when you come back? Where I'm going with this is it's a hard, there was a definitive end, because like the Vietnam War went on for 10 years.
Yeah.
And like people would do their time and then they'd come home. The World War II veterans, they all just kind of did a 5 to 6 year service
And just
then
did it, and then
they
all
did
came
it and they
home.
all came home
Right,
at one time.
right.
So like you could say that you would kind of feel shafted because the war technically it wasn't a war to begin with. Police.
It's
a police action.
Police action. Oh, Jesus Christ.
But so for one thing, like the bar was very high for them to be treated
course it was, yeah.
highly. So
Yeah.
that's one thing. The other thing was, as I said, there was no instance that he could find other than there was like maybe possibly one instance that he read where he could see where somebody was spit on. And he thought that this was very, very weird because who was at the time Richard Nixon, who is probably like the grandfather of the modern day GOP. Spitting Image is the name of the book. Richard Nixon was, he used every political power and point that he could. He was he was an incredible strategist. He could use anything kind of to his whim to try and make things work. He was like the originator of law and order. He used dog whistle politics. He was very shrewd. And he was very smart, and he was very good in like the sense that Cicero was good at politics. He was bright. He was really good.
Okay.
Do you believe that if Richard Nixon found out that the counterculture movement, the hippies, were spitting on veterans, Do you think that he would use that as political ammunition to fight against the counterculture? He would. He absolutely would.
Do you think he would, or do you think he should? I think
No. But here's the thing: there wasn't any instances where people were spit on for him to actually use. That's the other weird thing. Like, there was no, like, he couldn't find it in any newspaper because it wasn't going on. And if it did go on, Richard Nixon 100% would have used it to his.
Well, yeah, he was anti-hippie. He was anti.
He was he absolutely hated the hippies. He's the one that made marijuana illegal because you were able to put hippies and black people in jail.
I actually know this. So
because he could do that.
They came back with the study like 3 or 4 times. Every time saying there is absolutely no.
So you're not going to find somebody who's more against the counterculture than Richard Nixon.
Okay.
If he could use it, he could, but there wasn't.
So how did it become? How did it manifest?
The other thing was how did that? What's the story that you always hear? You always hear that somebody got off the plane.
Well, the story that I hear in culture.
Yeah, tell me what you hear.
They got off the plane. There was no, welcome home thing. It was a lot of booing, a lot of like baby killer, and then spitting on.
Who would spit on them?
Hippies,
but who specifically?
Women.
Yes. Why was it always? It was always women.
Okay.
It was always women spitting on them.
It's starting to sound more Christian than anything else.
So he started looking into that. There is a long, storied history that goes back to men being scorned by women when they come home from war.
That's old as time, though. Yeah,
absolutely is. But it's this story of these spitting women that come home.
It's a trope, so it fucking sticks.
Absolutely is a trope, and it sticks. It goes all the way back to...
that goes back to fucking Ulysses and shit.
Yep.
That goes back to fucking way old.
And how many women do you know that actually know how to spit?
Well, hold on, wait. It's been a while. I don't know.
Oh, I mean, I think the author, this is one of his weaker points, but it was always a woman that would spit.
Is that his argument, that how many women spit?
That actually is one of his.
That's bullshit.
I do believe it's one of his weaker arguments.
I take that off the fucking.
But I'm parroting what he said. So you have like this. He can't find it anywhere. It's a story that's been repeated by when the World War I and the World War II veterans, the Germans came back.
Yeah.
They had the stories about the women that scorned them when they came home from war. It's something that's been going on for a really long time. I know you took it off the board, but you did say women culturally don't spit as often.
That's fucking bullshit. They'll spit before they act out violently.
Okay. So he was trying to find out, well, when did this happen?
Okay.
When was the first time that you heard that veterans were treated poorly?
The earliest fucking memory I can remember was my father.
Your father. Was there anything else that you saw?
No, my mom told me too, but she wasn't there, so that's a different story.
How old were you when you started hearing the stories?
Young.
Around like the 80s?
Well, like way before that. I mean,
it would have been in the 80s though when you heard it.
80s, yeah.
Okay. A lot of people heard it in the 80s. Now there was a movie that came out. Where how a lot of people saw this is how the veterans are treated. Rambo. When John Rambo was crying at the end of the film and was talking about being spit on, called baby killer, all of these things. After that came out, the amount of people that said that they too were spit on skyrocketed. The story of the getting spit on by women didn't happen until pretty much after Rambo came out, and kind of like a cultural Mandela effect started to kind of happen.
Really?
Where now all of a sudden...
First Blood, by the way.
Yes,
Sorry.
First Blood.
Sorry. Yeah.
this Mandela effect started to happen where now everybody was saying that they were getting spit on after Rambo said that he got spit on. And then it kind of...
Oh, okay. For those of out there, I mean, granted, we're really only talking to 8, 9 people, but the irony is every episode gets more and more views. Our last episode got in the 90s.
What
is the Mandela effect?
The Mandela effect is kind of like this. It's like almost like a mass. I don't want to say like mass hypnosis, but like a hap. It's a mass situation where everybody just remembers something that doesn't necessarily exist.
Yeah, there's awesome, dumb yet very fascinating
the Berenstain
theories,
Bears, yeah,
theories about this, where it's like it's like 2 parallel universes shift.
Those are stupid.
Yeah, I know, but they're fun to talk about. Anyway, but yeah, the Berenstain Bears was it? Nelson Mandela, who the thing is named after. Everyone thought he had died, and it turns out he was not. But there's tons of this stuff, and like when you look into it, like Fruit Loops, everyone remembers Fruit Loops was F-R-O-O-T.
Sinbad playing a
Sinbad
genie.
was in fuck, what was the name of the movie? It's actually a specific movie, and then you go look at the movie, and it's like, oh no, he was never in that. He was in a movie called Kazam.
Kazam.
Yeah.
But the thing that makes me feel so incredibly uncomfortable,
yes,
is I don't want to believe this, because
I don't either.
the repercussions of this is that everybody, like, all the stories that you heard from fathers and uncles and brothers, like it never happened. It's like this weird, like the lie that would occur from this.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable. And like, I'm never going to have this conversation with my dad ever. There's no fucking way I'll ever have this conversation with my dad. Or any other Vietnam veteran for that matter.
You brought this up. This is a good time. I'm not going to shift, but I am going to talk about this real quick. I'm going to see my dad in August.
I wouldn't have this conversation with him.
I'm going to go see my dad in August. You remember I did that tiny little documentary called Shoot First, and it was like my dad's story about Vietnam, right? Mm-hmm. So what I want to do is I want to do something kind of similar, only better. I'm going to go see him. I'm going to stay with him for like a week, and then for every day, he's going to take me around Iowa, and he's going to tell me his life story. I want everything. I want every fucking detail. And I'm not going into this with this next mentality, but I want to record it just to be safe. The thing about doing a documentary is that the story always changes. No matter what you're doing a documentary about, typically what you start with is not what you finish with. Something else changes in the meantime. So what I want to do is I want to talk on camera myself before I go there, and then after I leave, basically like this is my journey finding my father, like walking his footsteps, like seeing what everything is. And I'm very interested to bring this up because I think while as turbo pro-military as he is, he's also gotten very retrospective about what was real and what's not.
All the veterans that I talk to, the story's always like feels the same. It was always a girl that spit on him. It was always when they got off the plane.
Basically what happened in First Blood.
But the thing is like when you get off the plane, like you don't leave right off the plane. You got to go through a military base first.
Of course. So, there's no fucking civilians there.
Yeah, so you're not going to have any civilians when you get off the plane.
My dad's story was he got off a bus. He got off a bus and it was bused to like this like shopping district somewhere. And he got off there. That's where he got spit on. That's what I was going on my phone while we were talking, and I was going to look up the year of First Blood.
The guy who wrote this, he wrote a thing and he tried
82.
to find any veteran that this happened to, and he's looked into every single thing and he's never been able to find one where the story could actually be corroborated. And think about it. You're gonna have a guy who was literally fighting in a jungle for a year or more,
Yeah.
and somebody spit on him, like, don't you think that there would be, I don't know, lots of medical records of people with missing teeth?
Yes. Yes.
I've never heard anybody say, and they spit on me and I beat them to a living pulp. I haven't seen anybody say, I went to prison when I got back because I killed a motherfucker. If somebody spit on me when I got off the plane, I'm going right to prison because...
Well, right. Well, I mean, you're also coming off of a very visceral mindset that is not civilian, that is not peaceful, that is not amicable.
Yeah.
It's just shoot back.
Yeah. So, I mean, it makes me feel so uncomfortable that this possibly could be true.
Yeah, it does. But
I have 2 copies of the book if you want one. I'll give it to you.
I would actually like to read that. It's kind of daunting.
I can give it to you.
Okay.
I literally I bought the book. I accidentally bought it twice.
I mean, yeah,
is what happened.
Like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I would love to.
I'll give you my second copy.
Now, is it just that, or does it go into more history elements too? Because if it's just the spitting thing, that seems kind of like a.
I mean, he goes more into like the history of it. I think that's kind of like a bulk of it. But
okay,
I mean, he's a journalist and he lays it out. It's not a huge book.
Oh, all right.
He has another one about
big fan of smaller books.
He also wrote another one about what is that? Jane Fonda. Which another one.
I know who she is.
Every Vietnam veteran hates Jane Fonda.
Yeah, I've never heard this.
You never heard this at all? Okay. The way that the story goes, and this all okay. The way that the story goes.
Okay.
The way that the story goes was that Jane Fonda went to visit a POW in a POW camp in Hanoi. And
POW? Mm-hmm. That seems. Okay, anyway, sorry.
Yeah, it was because she was against the war. That's the way the story goes.
All right.
She visited a POW camp because she was against the war, and when the POWs were there, they all handed her a slip of paper that had their names and their social security numbers because they wanted their families to know when they went back home.
Okay.
And the story goes is that when she got them, she took that whole handful of them and gave them to the commandant of the POW, the prison, and he beat and did all of these awful things.
I have never heard this.
This is huge. My father hates
because of this.
Jane Fonda. Your father hates.
Yeah,
if you just say the word Jane Fonda in front of your father, he will lose his fucking mind. Here's the thing. This all came from, do you remember when you would get these chain emails back in the 90s?
Yeah.
This came from a chain email that was passed around the internet machine.
Oh, you're kidding.
Bajillion times over. The officer was like, I think he was a major in the Air Force who supposedly was the one that was crafting this email.
Okay.
Has actually said in public, none of this ever happened. None of this is real. It didn't happen. Like, I'm that guy. I'm the one who supposedly did it because I was the one at this prison. I was there. She did go there. Wow. Because she was like, she was just against the war.
It's not about that. How would they be allowed in? A POW camp is like fucking anti-American, right? It's like prisoners of war.
Absolutely. But he was saying, like, the idea that she was handed all these things and all that stuff, it never happened.
Okay. I mean, yeah.
People were fucking losing their minds, calling this man a liar, saying that it did happen and it's real. Like, this is the guy. He was the guy who was there, and he can't convince people that he didn't say the things that the world thinks that he said. It's fucking bananas.
That was written by whoever fucking invented Fox News.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, we're seeing right now, like, facts and like 100% hard facts don't matter.
What I've been saying for fucking years is there's no way to tell a story objectively. illustrate information objectively.
If
There's
somebody,
no possible way.
if a story like went around the world that said Jay punched a baby in the face,
yeah.
and I saw it, and I wrote an entire thing of how Jay punched a baby in the face, and then everybody's quoting John saying, well, John said this, and it went around the world. And then if I went on TV and said, 100% Jay did not punch a baby in the face. He doesn't like babies, but he didn't punch one in the face. And then they called me a liar and said that I'm a kook and I'm just part of like some hidden, I got like some hidden agenda. It's just bananas. It's bananas.
I think it's bananas that someone wouldn't believe that I wouldn't punch a baby in the face.
For sure. I see how your knuckles are like.
Fuck that baby.
Your knuckles are turning white.
See, it says baby hate on my knuckles. Oh my God. Like we have so much other better stuff to talk about to make a show graphic for, but I just want to make baby hate.
Baby hates.
It's just like a fucking like pacifier broken in the fingers and shit. Oh, I am sorry for everyone out there who has children. I apologize.
But the author of this wrote a book about Jane Fonda as well.
Huh. Okay. That one seems like the spitting one, but then again, it's stories are so fucking universally ingrained in culture. You know, that's why everyone has a Jesus story, arcing back thousands of years, not just the 2000, but like everyone has a Jesus story. Everyone has a Messiah. Everyone has a hero story.
A guy born from the virgin, or a guy born to a virgin,
or born from a rock, or born from the sun. Like stories transist over time because they are universal. You know, like it's going back to our lizard brain sitting around a goddamn campfire, listening to a story and taking that as verbatim. So
yeah, but
if
why is it so hard? Like, it's creepy to me that like the human brain is so easily confused, and how hardwired it is to just like, if it's almost like Manchurian Candidate. Like, there's a series of things that I could say to just have an army of rubes to believe me.
Fucking Trump, dude. That's what he did. He had an army of rubes believe him, and still do. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, and it's not just him. Like, he's the easy target. He's the person on the dartboard. That's fucking easy. People do this every goddamn day in every fucking facet. Business owners do this all the time. Fucking politicians, lobbyists, the guy who is the manager at the 7-Eleven, you know, he's doing this to the people underneath them. They're fucking spouting shit because they want power. And so does power equal, like, is power the end all be all best thing to have? Or is it just something that weak people thrive for?
Well, I'm wondering if just certain, and this is like what we were talking about with the Antichrist thing. I think there's just certain types of people that are willing to take like that.
To take the shit given to them, or to
they're willing to tell the story, to lie.
Yeah.
And there's the lizard brain, or the people that are willing to believe. Like, I don't know how you get to unbelieve. I don't get it. I told you when I got out of Iraq, I was like super gung ho, and it was more of a pride thing for me.
Right.
You know, especially when where you've invested so much time, and you don't want to be wrong.
Right.
Like, that's a logical fallacy. That's the sunk cost fallacy. You know, I've already developed
actually on my list of shit I'm talking about at work. Yeah.
Like, I've already invested all this, and like, what if I'm wrong?
This is why people get in trouble with gambling.
Now I got to double down.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Because if the other option is I'm wrong, and like, that's not an option. You know, it's easier to con somebody. No, yeah, it's easier to con somebody than convince somebody they've been conned.
Wow, that's a nice way of putting it. I gotta write that down. It's easier. Hold on, I opened up the wrong thing. Fuck it. it's easier to con someone than convince them they've been conned.
And think about this. Now I'm going to tell a story of Jay and I when we were younger and in wrestling practice.
Oh, I am. Is it something against me? Because the shit I believed is fucking stupid.
No.
Good.
So we were. I don't know if you were there. I was definitely there. You know, this is like during the bully days, but this is when there was something that we used to call the impossible sit-up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So the impossible sit-up was this thing that you do where you have to talk it up to a guy and say
it's a whole day thing.
It's a whole thing. You have to convince him like nobody can do the impossible sit-up.
You and I would do that. I would always be the brother.
It was super hard to do the impossible sit-up.
You can do it.
And you got to talk him up to think that he can do the impossible sit-up. And you got to tell him, like, there's no way. You know, if you tell somebody there's no way they can do the impossible sit-up, they're going to want to do the
They're going to want to try it. Yeah.
But what little do they know, the impossible sit-up is where somebody puts a towel over their head and they're holding it down and everybody else is going to hold him back while he does the sit-up. Little does the person doing the sit-up knows there's a guy standing over him who's got his pants down waiting to put to pretty much he's gonna get a face full of ass as soon as he gets up to the top of the sit-up because he's gonna sit up really fast. And there was a kid that we did this to. Like we had done it to other people. Most people they'll do the sit-up. Most people will like do the sit-up and they'll see it or they'll smell the guy's ass and they won't fall for it. But there was one kid who we did it to him.
I remember this
3 times in a row.
Like not like separate days.
Like we did it 3 times in a row, and he didn't get the point of it was to shove his face in another dude's ass.
That was the joke.
That was the joke. That was the con. You were like supposed to be the butt of the joke.
Yeah.
You know? And he just kept saying, "Come on, guys, just let me do it.
Let me try it. I can do it. Stop fucking around."
And like I always like that always goes into my head of like
me too.
Like the Trump supporters are the guys that are like, I'm either getting picked on and I'm being ridiculed or I'm gonna be able to do this sit-up. And it's everybody else's fault. It's not mine. You know, and this is like a shitty way of, you know, to do it. But I mean, that's kind of like it's the sunk cost thing.
So just for clarification, because part of me always feels bad about that prank.
I do too.
But
there's a lot of things that I did that I feel really awful about.
The grand majority, I can name one of them. I think about this all the time. But hold on.
Was it the guy in the garbage can?
No, but let's talk about that.
That's another one.
The grand majority of what I thought was the impossible sit-up was the camaraderie of it. It was like a hazing thing, being like, hey, you get to do this shit, but we got your back. Like, you're part of us. You're part of this clique. We may give you a little shit, but guess what? You can give it back to us now.
Yes. Yeah. Or you get to do it to the next guy.
Or you get to do it to the next guy, and then we're like brothers. It's like fucking frat house bullshit.
Yeah, it's frat house bullshit. I had stuff happen to me.
Problem is when you turn 18, you just don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering, like, you know, maybe because it did those type of things did happen to me. Like, I did get squirt with a squirt gun with piss in it. You know,
that sounds delicious.
Like, I know it's really gross, but like maybe I wanted to do that because somebody else picked on me.
Right. Well, I mean that's how fucking bullying starts. You think a bully comes to school?
I was 100% a bully.
Yeah,
I was 100% a bully. I
get shit on at home.
That there was the one line that I read that America is such an asshole that we're gonna go to your country and we're gonna start a war and we're gonna kill you and your family and we're gonna be over there for 20 years and then in another 20 years we're gonna write stories and make movies about how sad we were about it.
What the fuck?
Ain't that fucked up? Can you imagine being like a Vietnamese person and being like, wow, there's all these movies about how sad they were killing my family. Just winning awards.
Holy shit, man.
I was so sad when I killed all you guys. I'm so sad.
Wow.
It is. I'm really ragging on the Vietnam veterans on this go around. There's no
fuck.
I think like all the Iraq War ones are all like super rah-rah propaganda. But you don't like. I think a lot of some of like Oliver Stone did some like real.
I don't think I've ever watched a truly pro Vietnam War film.
No, they were all like, super anti-war. I mean, but that's like when the That's when they had the draft. Like if there
Yeah,
was one
you're
thing
right.
that the Vietnam veterans got screwed on, like they were forced to die. Like
Yeah.
that was like the first. The Hunger Games was about Vietnam.
Oh yeah, right.
100%.
Right.
And in that effect, they got shit on. But nobody ever says, yeah, the government sent us away. No, nay. Nobody ever said that my family and my teachers and my congressmen all propped me up and fed me
Bullshit.
as a death offering so
Yeah,
my country
yeah.
could keep going. Nobody brings that up. But they bring up that they got spit on by a hippie.
Well, again, my only real correlation with this is my father, but he was really pissed at like the cultural push to push people toward war. He was super against it.
What was he again? Was he against the war in Iraq
He was
and Afghanistan?
no, I think he was indoctrinated from being in his time, coming home, and then having that pent up rage because they didn't have the PTSD try and work through after. They just had to sit with it, and that's why there's so many goddamn homeless vets. That's why there's so many people who just went fucking nuts because they couldn't come back to society that didn't want them.
I remember when I got out of the military, I think a big reason for the homeless vet is you make a lot of, at least this was my case.
Of course.
So I can only tell my story. I was homeless for a little while. It was like a month. There was a month of my life where I just had to live out of my car, and it fucking was really sucked. That whole, you're one paycheck away from being homeless thing. Like that happened to me. I just drank a bunch and made really poor decisions. A lot of it was fueled by just alcohol and not liking how my life was turning out. And I ended up being homeless. But I think a big part of that is that, you're used to just like being shit on and, living, you could live out in a desert and you're fine. So it's like, I can handle being homeless. Like, it's not a big deal. This isn't the worst thing that's ever happened to me. So it's really easy to kind of fall into that trap of like I can do this. Like, what do I need this for? And I remember, and I remember totally thinking that, like, I'll totally be fine. But just being super angry at the government and everything. I remember dude, I was gonna mug somebody. That's how I was gonna get my money. Okay, you wanna hear this story?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, this is a good one. I had a shotgun. I needed the shotgun to protect myself because my, at that time, girlfriend, her boyfriend murdered his mom. And we got a phone call in the middle of the night saying that he had threatened to kill my girlfriend when they were still dating years prior. They essentially, we got a phone call 3 a.m. saying, your ex-boyfriend who had threatened to kill you already killed his mom, and we don't know where he is, and we're just we're calling you to warn you. So I ended up having Tommy went to my house. I called Tommy at 3 a.m. to be like, hey dude, I need protection right now.
Where the fuck was I during this?
You were in.
Was I in Georgia?
You were in Georgia.
Oh fuck.
And so he gave me the shotgun. That's my first shotgun ever. My first weapon ever, out of the military, was a shotgun. And I remember this was right around when I was being homeless, and I didn't have any money. The place I was living ended up taking my entire deposit. So I was going to be using my deposit to be the down payment at the next place I was moving. So since I didn't get the deposit, and dude, get this. My apartment flooded with human shit because the sewers backed up and soaked my carpet, and all they did was give me fans to dry my carpet out. Yet
what the fuck?
Yet because my dog was pooped on the ground and peed in some spots.
No.
I didn't get my money back because of that. Oh man, I was so mad at them.
Does this place still exist?
Oh yeah, it does.
Is it the same people?
No, that place has been like bought out so many times. So I didn't have the money.
Feel vindictive.
Oh my God. And I knew that I needed money to move into a place in Champaign, because I was moving to Champaign.
Yeah.
Now I had no money. So I had to be homeless for a month. So I didn't pay rent. So yeah, I had to be homeless for 30 days to make the money to have the deposit for the next place when I was living in Champaign.
Why didn't you move home?
My dad was a crazy Vietnam veteran, and the both of us being in the same house was not an option. So, so I just became homeless. And I remember to get the money, I remember thinking like, you know what? The government's fine with me killing people for them. And they're fine with me being a terror and doing all these things. And I was like, you know what? If this is all that I'm good for, if all I can do is work at these shitty jobs out of the military and I'm just a piece of shit and I don't matter, well, fuck it. Then I'm going to be a piece of shit and I'm going to mug people for money. And I took that shotgun that I had and I drove to a parking garage that was far away from where I was. And I just hung out in the parking garage with the shotgun. And I was like waiting for the bars to close so I could just mug them and get the money so I would have the money. And I remember like sitting in the car and I had the shotgun in the trunk and I had like a black ski mask and everything. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And I remember just thinking like, you know what, I can't do this. Like I don't want, I don't know, like I didn't want to ruin somebody's life and like have them be scared. And I don't want to scar somebody. And I just, you know, because the government scarred me, but I didn't want to do it with somebody else. So I ended up not going through with it. Here's the real kicker. This is like the big thing. At my current job, I didn't realize it until a few days into my current job. The parking garage that I park at every day, it was that parking garage.
No shit.
Yeah. And I remember like I ended up asking Tommy for the money. And he loaned me the money to pay, so I didn't have to. I mean, I wasn't that bad. But yeah, I thanked him when I started working, because I mean I mean my life could be so different. Because they for sure,
your life would be done, dude.
I'd be in prison, or I might just be getting out of prison.
I'm sorry, you're a smart guy, but I don't think I really don't know anyone who can like outsmart fucking cops.
Oh, dude, yeah.
In a modern type society.
They would have definitely, yeah.
Something would have come back.
I wasn't in a good headspace.
Right. And that's what I mean by that. Is like no one does that out of like fascination. They do it out of desperation. And when you're doing things out of desperation, you tend to fuck things up.
Yeah. So like when I hear people and they'll say something like, I don't know, like how big of a piece of shit they are and all these things, I just, I know, if you want to like solve homelessness, if you want to solve crime, if you want to do all these things, like solve the people that are willing, solve the people who are so low they're willing to do something like that. Right. Because, and this was Fredo's line, happy people don't mug people.
Mm-hmm.
Happy people don't murder people.
Right.
Happy people don't do a lot of these things. If you if you can make people be able to, afford healthcare and afford, having a home and not have to worry about it. Like I was at the point where I was going to be homeless. I ended up being homeless anyway, but I was at the point, I owed all this money. Oh my God, it was awful. It was such a horrible time in my life. When you have nothing to lose, you feel like you have nothing to lose. That's when you make really poor decisions.
Yeah.
And I don't judge those people. Because that happened. Like, imagine if it happens all the time. I was just in that really, that's the lowest of my life ever, was being in that parking garage. I don't know.
What made you stop? What was like What was going through your head? You said you didn't want to ruin someone's life, but there had to be some kind of like visualization, or you saw something.
Like how was I going to go through it?
No, like what made you stop?
It was I didn't want to ruin somebody else's
I know
life.
you said that, but like what was the realization that brought you to that?
Because the way it was set up was I went there like an hour. I don't know. In my head, I was like, well, if I get there early, like I can kind of stake the place out and look around and find out where to go. And it was just me sitting in the car. Or at that time, it was my Jeep at the time.
Yeah.
I was just sitting in my Jeep and just thinking about it.
Like what clicked though? Like what was the deciding factor that made you go, oh, I could ruin someone's life? Because
my mind was already made up. I was just like, I'm a piece of shit.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So like, what happened between the self-hatred and the love for humanity? That couldn't have just flipped a switch.
It was sitting in a car for an hour and just like going through it.
Almost like meditation.
Yeah.
You were meditating on this thing. And
yeah, I think had I just shown up and done it, I probably would have just done it right away. But like the fact that I had to just sit there, dude, at the time, oh man, it was really bad. It was so bad.
I'm not negating you, but I know your heart too.
Not at the time. I mean, it was bad.
Fair. Again, like I'm saying, I'm not negating.
The thing is, I don't even know that guy anymore. You know? I don't know. In this type of stuff, like it does make me think like, I don't know, like it's so something that I don't like about the left is like how far they'll go back to ruin somebody's life.
How do you mean?
Like the whole Me Too.
Oh, like the Twitter and shit.
Like is Harvey Weinstein and stuff like that? Is he an awful person and should he have gone? Yeah. But like how
James Gunn got canceled because he made a fucking joke when he was working at Trauma.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like there are things that if you look into my past, and I just told you one of them, you could think I'm a monster.
Right.
But I don't know that person anymore. I don't know who that person is anymore.
Right.
I have a hard time identifying with the person that was sitting in that Jeep waiting to mug someone. I can't identify with that anymore. And it really bothers me that somebody could say, you know, well, you were an adult and you should have known better. Well, yeah, that's true. But, you know, people make mistakes. And I think it's the people who are able to grow and try and be better and maybe try and make the world a better place are the ones who have been in that position.
Yeah.
The people who do know how bad it can get. You know, people who are supposedly supposed to be squeaky clean. Like, you're really the one that's supposed to be making the decisions for me. You don't know what it's like to be put in that position. Like, you don't know what it's like to have to choose, like, mugging somebody or being homeless or selling blood or Jesus, like, or anything else that people have to do to make money just to make ends meet. Like, if you've never been in that position, then who the hell are you to judge me? I mean, I don't know. Like, yeah. Like, if there's like an actual judge who's never been in trouble before, who's never had anything bad happen to him, has never had to worry about where their like meal's going to come from.
Right.
And then now you're the one who's going to be judging me? Come on, man.
The irony is that the judges are the ones who need to have those squeaky clean pasts.
Yeah.
Ain't that fucking bullshit?
It is. You know?
I agree
but
with
to
that.
go back to like people on the far left that want to just ruin people's lives because you know, they didn't walk that line their entire life. It's like, come on, man. Nobody can. It's an impossible thing. And I wonder how many people of our generation or even the people that are younger, how many people aren't going to be able to run for office? How many people aren't going to want to do something in the public eye? How many people aren't going to want to do that because they're terrified that something they have said or done in the past that could be awful? But now they're terrified of like, well, I would, but
here's the issue: is the people who are going to run, and let's face it, the people who are going to win are the ones who are bred to do so. They are lined up. They aren't people who believe in a cause and go after it. Buddha Judge was a fucking awesome dude. I was wholeheartely backing him the entire time. You know who won? The crusty old fucking white man, because he was the safe fucking vote. I'm not going to get into this, okay? Because my education is not strong enough to back it up. But my heart is fucking there, believing that people who are bred to do something are typically the ones who are going to fucking do it. But the people who really deserve it and probably should be in office are the people who are shunned and put down. I'm sorry. That's the way it goes. It sucks.
It does suck.
I fucking hope it changes. 100-fold I hope it changes. Get all the fucking old white men out of fucking office. I'm sorry. Get the fuck out.
Well, they can still be white. I'm not going to say like, oh, you can't have any white guys in there, but like, I want white guys that have fucked up.
Yes. Dude, okay, Michael Moore, I'm not the biggest fan of Michael Moore, especially as a filmmaker. But he did say one thing one time that made me fucking think, and it always makes me think whenever I'm downtown Chicago or someplace that's quote unquote sketchy, right? Is I'm more afraid of a white man in a suit than I am a black man walking on the same side of the street with me. And that is like, I think about that all the fucking time. I am more afraid, like if I see a guy in a suit, literally to me, that is pure antitrust. I do not trust you. I do not like you. And you and I will not see eye to eye on probably anything. A suit automatically makes you my enemy. I don't know why. I just have always thought this. And then when Michael Moore said it, it just fucking clicked. And then when I am in a situation where I have the race inside me, that fear of brown people, like when that starts to creep up sometimes, I think about that and I go, no, that guy in the suit's going to fucking ruin my life way more. Because that motherfucker is going to be a lawyer. That motherfucker is going to be a judge and have a vendetta. He's not going to get a blowjob from his wife in the morning. And that's why I get shit hit. Something stupid happens.
That guy in the suit is the one that votes against children
Correct.
having free lunches.
Yeah. Well, or women having their fucking rights of their own body.
Yeah. It's going to be a guy in a suit.
Yes. On that note, I did stand in front of a judge once because I thought my life was over. I literally thought like I was fucking done. In between, I don't remember what year. In between 2 years of college, when I was at Northern Illinois, I was working 3 jobs because my dad and my mom lost their business, so they couldn't help me pay for college. So I was working the 3 jobs to pay to go back to school, and I was fucking tired, man. I was so fucking tired, and I was coming off a day of construction, and I fell asleep at the wheel. And I rear-ended a fucking car at a stoplight. Remember where Video Images was? Not in West Chicago, but Carroll Stream on, I don't think it was Prairie Farm, County Farm. I don't know, County Farm in Washington.
Oh, the Video Images by your house?
Yeah. Okay, it was right there. Like
Geneva County Farm.
Yeah, thank you. It was full blow. I was going like 45 miles an hour, and I ran to the back of a parked car. And immediately when I woke up, I came to, and like everything flat. Like, you know how everyone says like, oh, it flashes before your eyes before bad things happen. It didn't flash before my eyes like my past. Like I don't remember like thinking about where I was. I thought about everything in my future that could have been was now fucking gone. I literally thought I killed who was ever in that car. Mm-hmm. And then I turn around and there's 2 little fucking kids, 2 little young kids in the back seat. And they're rubbing their necks, they're crying. And then there's an old lady in the front. And they always tell you like when you get in a car accident, never admit fault. There was like, there was no fucking getting around that. I was just apologizing nonstop. I couldn't stop. I was crying. I was like, what can I do? What can I do? And And then I remember them like wheeling her away on a fucking stretcher into an ambulance, and the kids too. And they had the fucking neck braces on and everything. And I was sitting on the curb just like shaking because like I knew everything was fucking done. Everything was done. And then my dad came and got me, and I didn't want to go home. I wanted to go to the hospital. I wanted to make sure that they were okay. And my dad was like, don't do that. You know, your fucking lawyer's not going to like that. And I'm like, I don't fucking care. I need to make sure they're okay. If my life is over, I need to make sure I didn't fucking hurt someone. Because there's a difference between, hey, I can't go to school anymore versus I killed somebody, you know? So I was just fucking terrified. So I went to the hospital and they wouldn't let me in. You know, no matter how much I pleaded. And I didn't even say like, you know, like when they said we won't let you see her, I was like, yeah, fucking, I get that. Let me know how she is. And I just wouldn't leave. I wouldn't leave all night. So like time goes by, I'm talking with my lawyer. This is the first time I ever met a lawyer. And we're going over everything, you know, like weeks go by, blah, blah, blah. And I remember being in the courtroom and the lawyer was like, shit, dude, I remember this so fucking vividly. We were standing outside the room and he was saying like, just prepare yourself, just steel yourself. Because, you know, as much as as good as he was, you know, and positive thinking as he was, it was still a big fucking chance that I was done. And I had to stand in line. Like you always see like court dramas where people are sitting or something and then they're called up and it's like, no. There was like a line of like 30 people, like fucking lunchroom, you know, and you just go through. And what shook me when I was standing there was I was the only one wearing a tie. Everyone else was like in slippers and shorts and tank tops. And I dressed up, you know, as much as my 19, 20-year-old self could. And I remember I got up there, they called my name, and I don't think I was shaking, but I thought the world around me was fucking vibrating. Like I couldn't see straight. I couldn't think. I couldn't feel. And that woman who was driving the car walks into the courtroom, does not look at me, walks right up to the judge. Dude, like I swear to God that this is, like when I think back on it, it feels kind of like a Mandela effect where it's like there's no way that this was real. This had to be fabricated in my brain. But I remember her walking up to the judge and like whispering to the judge. And then she turned around, looked at me really quick and left. And then the judge said, okay, you're free to go. Apparently I walked out. I was fucking shaking my lawyer's face. Like that's when I realized, oh, lawyers can fuck up too. But the lawyer was like, we had no idea what was going to happen. And apparently the lady heard that I wouldn't leave the hospital. I wanted to check that she was okay. And she dropped every fucking charge.
Holy shit. Fuck lawyers.
To a certain degree. I got in another car accident years later and they fucking saved my ass. Did I ever tell you that story? The car accident in Georgia?
I think you did tell me about it. Like that person tried to pull a U-turn.
They turned in front of us and then stopped in the middle of the road and we T-boned them. That was probably next to the fucking lady. That was like the scariest moment of my life. Andy was picking me up at the airport. Mm-hmm. That's important. I picked up 2 mocha frappuccinos for us for the drive home. And we put them in the car. We're driving out. This lady pulls out in front of us and fucking stops. Like, I remember that so fucking vividly. Like, she was turning left in front of us and stopped. And we T-boned her hard. It was like
Were you driving?
No, and Andy was driving. It was like 2 or 3 weeks later that I saw the photos of the car. The car was destroyed.
Yours or the person's?
Ours. It was like the entire we were driving a Saturn, and Saturns are basically built to crumple in on itself without doing damage to you. Mm-hmm. The fucking engine was inside the cabin. So we hit this lady fucking hard, right? Andy and I both black out for a second. I look up and I see brown chunks everywhere. And the very first thought was, oh my God, my girlfriend exploded. And like when we came to, we heard people screaming at us. Like, are you okay? Are you okay? And I look around and there's fucking like all these people.
So you blacked out?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, God, I can't, like, I have a hard time imagining that. Like, do you remember hitting her?
Yeah. Well, I remember the feeling of like the jerking forward kind of feeling.
Your brain just shut off?
Yeah. I think I only blacked out I blacked out once with you when I was drunk. I was the drunkest I've ever been in my life. But then I blacked out one other time on a film set and they had to shake me awake. That was fucking weird. Anyway, but so we hit and everyone's like screaming at us like, are you okay? Are you okay? Can you breathe? And I'm like, is she okay? You know, is she okay? And everyone's like, yes, she's fine. We got her out of the car. And like literally that moment, I was just like, oh, everything's fine. I don't fucking care anymore. She's fine. I'm okay. So I open the door and I just fall out and I start crawling on the ground and everyone's shouting at me to stop, you know, just lay down. And I'm like, no, I don't get the fuck away from here. It's sticky inside. And like, it's
sticky inside.
Literally, as soon as I knew that Andy was okay, I was like, this is fucking funny because if I don't laugh, I'm going to freak out. And I remember,
I know that feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just laying there like kind of giggling. And I'm like, where the fuck did you guys come from? There was like 12 people. And they're like, we're all police officers. We just got off shift and we saw the whole thing. We saw that she stopped in the middle of the road. We will vouch for all of this for you. So it was like, okay, that's even funnier that like the best possible people to be at this accident were there.
Yeah, that shift change.
Yeah, the perfect
After
fucking
shift
time.
change.
Yeah, it's like they were all in civvy outfits. You know, none of them were wearing police uniforms or anything. And I'm just sitting there like, oh, this sucks. You know, this sucks. But like, I'm alive. This is fucking great. And then the ambulance comes, and then I realize I can't breathe very well. And my sternum split. And it punctured my lung. And they're like, well, we're going to take you to the hospital. And I was like, fucking how? I'm fat as fuck. And they start laughing and they start picking me up. I'm like, how are you doing this magic? And I just,
because they're picking you up. It's like you're on a roller coaster. Whee!
Like that was kind of how I was acting. It's like all the cops were laughing.
You were in shock.
I think so. But literally, the worst traffic. I know everyone says they have the worst traffic. I've never seen worse traffic than Savannah, Georgia. I have seen a fucking car T-bone an ambulance that was trying to get through an intersection and tipped the fucking ambulance over. I have seen tons of fucking accidents in Savannah. Tons. But this whole time, I'm just like, Andy's okay. I'm okay. I'm having trouble breathing. Whatever. I didn't really get scared until I got into the ambulance because I knew no one pulls over for emergency vehicles in Savannah. They have to sit in the same traffic as everybody else. So I knew I was going to die in that fucking ambulance. That's when I started freaking the fuck out.
Were they worried?
I don't think so.
Hey, you'd be fine.
Literally at that point, I stopped paying attention to what was around me. I remember being at the hospital and like I was so fucking thirsty. They wouldn't let me drink. I was so fucking thirsty. They gave me like tiny little ice chips. And I was like, motherfucker, get me a goddamn drink. They're like, no, here, you can just have this once every 15 minutes. I remember staring at the fucking clock to have another ice chip.
What year was that?
2006.
2006? Yeah, that was the year that was my down year.
Was it really?
That was pretty bad for the both of us, huh?
Jesus.
Fuck 2006.
Fuck
2006 is like the worst year on record for me.
I had a fucking job lined up at the Discovery Channel too. And because I couldn't get out of bed for 3 months, lost that job. That was like, I've had parts of my life where I didn't have a lot of money. The year after that was fucking brutal. I remember I had like $45 total in my bank account. And with no job, I had no money coming in. And my dad sent me money when he could to help pay for rent and stuff. But I remember Andy and I were like, okay, combined, we have like $150 for this month for food and everything else. How do we do this? So I got like really good at finding like the cheapest fucking pasta possible. You know, cut out all drinks. Water was fucking fantastic. Just had like the cheapest fucking food. Like we would go, like there was this place right next to the grocery store. It wasn't Right Way or Rite Aid.
Was it
like,
the place that sold the bread that would just expire?
Yes.
They had one of those in Champaign. Yep.
And like we shopped there, but we shopped at the discount rack in there. And we found some decent shit. We got pretty good at making pasta. You know,
Oh, dude.
pasta.
When I was in Carbondale, I had to live off $20 a month for food.
Jesus fuck, dude.
And it was, eating pasta.
Yeah.
Like the
The thing that makes you the fattest is the thing that's the easiest to get.
because I get 3 packages for $1.
Yeah. Ours was 10 cents per box. Like the small little like hamburger helper size boxes of like noodles.
Yeah. I
10
couldn't afford like any of the stuff to put on it.
No.
But like I could get like for 99 cents I could get the Italian seasoning. I would get that. Or like sometimes I can get like the really cheap butter.
That was what we did was we got butter. That was the topping.
Yeah.
I remember when I did get money, I went to KFC and they just introduced the chicken littles or the little chicks, whatever they're called, like the small little sandwiches, and they were $1 each. And I felt like a fucking asshole getting 2 of them. And I remember walking home. It was like 110 degrees out, and just being like you've been in heat. Have you you've been in like moisture heat though, right?
Al-Udeed, it was moisture heat. That was like right on the Red Sea.
Okay. Then yeah, fucking okay.
Yeah.
Like when people tell you it was like 110% humidity, I didn't think that was real.
It's awful. Humidity's
But
the worst.
it's real. Like literally humidity can go over 100%. I didn't know that was a fact.
Yeah.
But like
that's awful.
walking in that was just fucking brutal. And I remember like eating this chicken sandwich and I was crying on Martin Luther King Boulevard. I was the only white person on the fucking block. And everyone else knew it. But I was just crying eating this chicken sandwich and it tasted so fucking good. I've never, whenever I think of KFC, I always think of those sandwiches. And I pick one up every now and then. I'm like, these taste like shit. Like, why? Where's that good one? Maybe I just shouldn't eat for 3 or 4 months and then
Dude,
go eat
man.
one of these again.
I'm telling you, man, like having nothing makes having things awesome.
Like the smallest thing.
Oh, big time. When Heather and I got married, we had like no money coming in.
Yeah.
And I remember like we had to go through our penny, like all of our pennies and quarters, so we would have enough money after we actually moved her all the way to Colorado Springs, and we were in the Fowler basement.
Yep.
And like just literally having nothing.
But you had each other.
But we had each other.
That's what got me through everything.
And the thing is I told her, because I've had so many bad times, and I remember her being like really upset. And I told her like, one of these years you're gonna look back and you're gonna miss counting pennies and living in a basement.
Right.
And she couldn't
Well,
see it, but
look, missing it is a weird nomenclature.
there will be a nostalgia for the simpler times of like,
there you go.
like we were able to entertain ourselves with $37.
Yep.
Now it's like, we plan trips and things like that.
Dude, I got a job at Hollywood Video so we could have movies to watch at home and do nothing else.
That's genius.
Yeah, it was fucking great.
It's genius. One of these podcasts, we should talk about our wives.
I would love that.
Yeah.
That would actually be awesome.
We should do a wife one. This
Yeah.
one was a brutal podcast.
I think I have never had a bad experience with this. Even though it's rough conversations, it's been beautiful the entire time.
Good.
Yeah. I told you this is like therapy for me, and it's in a very good way. I feel honest and raw and real, and I don't feel judged.
Good.
That's important.
Love you, buddy.
I love you too.